Tesla somehow did record sales. Now we're talking to the tune of about $43 million in rebates. Now initially when that report came out, I think everyone learned pretty quickly. Canadians will hold a beef. Yeah, so I actually just wanted to go over this video with y'all because who didn't see this coming? So do you remember that $43 million in rebates that Tesla got? CTV did a little investigation and found some suspicious activity, let's just say. Now, the way that this goes is Canada was going to make some adjustments to their EV rebate program in light of the current beef that they have with Tesla. Now, just before that happened, Tesla somehow did record sales. Now, we're talking to the tune of about $43 million in rebates. Now, initially when that report came out, I think everyone learned pretty quickly. Canadians will hold a beef.
We're supposed to help our people.
So this was the initial report.
A suspicious spike in Tesla sales has experts in the industry scratching their heads. It started with a deadline in January for Ottawa's rebate program on electric vehicles that allegedly prompted a mad rush to buy EVs. CTV's Adrian Gabriel has been crunching the numbers. And Adrian, do they add up?
Sandy, a spike in purchases was to be expected, though the reported sale of 8,600 Teslas equaling $43 million in rebates at 4 Canadian Tesla locations has sparked plenty of questions.
In the west end of Toronto, this one Tesla location alone reported selling more than 1,200 vehicles on January 11th, totaling more than $4 million in rebates. So we paid them a visit to try and get some clarity on the staggering number of sales.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. My name's Adrian Gabriel. I'm a journalist with CTV News.
Okay.
There was a large increase in the number of sales processed through the EV rebate program. Just trying to get an understanding of perhaps what maybe some of the reasons were behind that. Did that take place, or is that a backlog of paperwork going through? You can't share any comments?
Okay.
Is there any manager you think that might be able to?
I am the manager.
Our multiple emails to Tesla's headquarters have been met with silence.
It defies logic that these corporate stores of Tesla and Tesla shareholders and Elon Musk would be able to sell 8,600 vehicles in a single weekend. There's something highly unusual about this.
CTV News has gathered.
You call it highly unusual. We all know what it is. It looks like they took advantage of the rebate program.
Très bizarre, non?
No. Very clever.
The data from Transport Canada's records. Canada's EV subsidy has been wildly popular, with more than 500,000 vehicles purchased through the program. On Monday, January 13th, it was paused, just 72 hours after Transport Canada signaled that the program would soon end. Over those 3 days is when 4 Tesla locations, one in Quebec, 2 in Toronto, and 1 in Vancouver, claimed $43 million in rebates.
So it seems that somebody at Tesla may have been tipped off, or the registration gaming of this may be inappropriate. We don't have the facts yet, but what we're asking for is that Transport Canada look into this.
Okay, so that was the initial problem. Leadership switches. Now what happens? When Canadians apparently feel like if you've done them wrong, they don't just move on like nothing happened. So sure enough, Mark Carney apparently takes action. CTV does a follow-up.
Transport Canada is freezing rebate payments for Tesla until each claim is individually investigated. The move comes after revelations.
Pause. I'm going to rewind it back so I can go without pausing. But did you hear what he just said? Each claim can be investigated. You know what that's called? That's called investigation with a scalpel.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw! Chainsaw! Chainsaw!
They're not just going the Doge route, which is just cancel all the rebates because some of them might actually be legit. So if they're legit, cool. But we're going to investigate every single sale to make sure that this is on the up and up. That's called precision. That's what Doge should have done. Apologies. They're not just going the chainsaw method. They're even giving Elon the benefit of the doubt.
Transport Canada is freezing rebate payments for Tesla until each claim is individually investigated. The move comes after revelations the EV maker suspiciously filed for rebates. As CTV News reported, 4 Tesla locations in Canada submitted paperwork for the sale of 8,600 vehicles over a 72-hour period in the final days of the rebate program in January, amounting to more than $40 million in claims. The automaker has also been barred from future programs. Transport Minister Chrystia Freeland said today, quote, so long as the illegitimate and illegal U.S. tariffs are imposed against Canada.
Hey, if you've seen my videos before, you know I'm no fan of Chrystia Freeland.
Damn!
But for her to be the transport minister, you know she made that decision with a smile on her face. Now, this decision does come in light of the fact that the Trump administration did announce a 25% tariff on all auto imports to the U.S. What kind of effect this is going to have on the stock market and the overall value of a vehicle is yet to be determined. But we do know one thing. Prices are likely to go up. The Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, he called the move a direct attack on Canadian auto workers and promised swift action and support. He said, we will defend our workers, we will defend our companies, we will defend our country, and we will defend it together. He also alluded, you know this will hurt us, but through this period, by being together, we will emerge stronger. So here's where he addresses the 25% tariff that was implemented.
One permit in one day after waiting 14 years and the other one in 1 week after waiting for 12 years. But this is very exciting to me. This is the automobile industry, and this will continue to spur growth like you haven't seen. Before I was elected, we were losing all of our plants. They were being built in Mexico and Canada and other places. Now those plants largely have stopped, and they're moving them to our country. In Indiana, the great state of Indiana, I love Indiana. Honda is building one of the biggest plants anywhere, and they've just started. They wouldn't have done it without this. In all cases, they wouldn't have done it without what we're doing. So we'll effectively be charging a 25% tariff. But if you build your car in the United States, there is no tariff. And what that means is a lot of foreign car companies, a lot of companies are going to be in great shape because they've already built their plant, but their plants are underutilized, so they'll be able to expand them inexpensively and quickly. But others will come into our country and build, and they're already looking for sites. They're looking for mostly sites. They don't want to take the old buildings that are empty and falling down. They want to build new, and there's tremendous action.
Now, this is the type of issue that as the current leader of Canada, you need to get on top of. And Mark Carney, well, he did.
Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir tout le monde. I have a pleasure. During the course of that meeting, President Trump announced 25% tariffs against our auto industry. And this is a direct attack, to be clear, a direct attack on the very workers that I stood in front of, Unifor workers I stood in front of this morning at the Ambassador Bridge, a bridge that is a symbol and a reality up until now of the tight ties between our two countries, ties of kinship, ties of commerce, ties that are in the process of being broken. We will defend our workers. We will defend our companies. We will defend our country, and we will defend it together. Les États-Unis, over the course of the last several months, Canadians as a whole across this country, have gotten over the shock of the betrayal and are learning lessons. We have to look out for ourselves, and we have to look out for each other and work together.
That's true. That's actually frighteningly true. If you talk to Canadians nowadays, it's like the shock of the tariff has almost lost its effect.
Now he's a philosophizer.
Kind of like when you tell someone, hey, I'm going to hurt you. They might get scared the first couple times, but then if you continuously repeat yourself over and over, what you say just starts to lose effect to the point where they might actually just tell you, listen, just do what you're going to do. No one cares anymore.
Together for each other. And I just want to say a few words before taking some questions about what my government has done to turn that sentiment into reality. We made a commitment a few weeks ago to use every dollar that we collect from retaliatory tariffs to support workers, to directly go to support workers. And last week we made a series of changes to the EI system in order to take the first big step to make good on that promise. There'll be more. We've announced, of course, retaliatory tariffs. We have other options for those retaliatory tariffs. I have asked for a meeting, I will convene rather, a meeting of the Canada-U.S. Cabinet tomorrow to discuss our trade options. But We're also providing the option of major liquidity for our companies. We put in place an ability for companies to delay tax payments. We've put in place a large facility for our largest companies, some of them which may be affected by this, would be affected by this, to draw on liquidity in various forms so that they can take longer-term decisions without undue pressure from short-term unjustified actions.
Okay. I don't hate it.
It's also why we focused, in part in anticipation of what might happen, on today's announcement that I made in front of that Ambassador Bridge for the $2 billion Strategic Response Fund. And the point of that fund, the point of government procurement, the point of linking up through supply chains, the point of working with labor, led by Unifor, is to build a made-in-Canada supply chain, a made-in-Canada option, so that we are less affected by these. Now, that will take time, but we're already putting in place the building blocks for that.
But with Canada, though, they didn't really just stop there, because they didn't just stop with Elon because they have decisions to make now. You have the 43 million, and now you have the tariffs. So Mark Carney responded, now you have Pierre.
À travers le Canada, afin de défendre notre monde contre ces menaces injustifiées et injustifiables.
I think that means unjustified, unjustifiable.
Thank you very much. I want to start by condemning, without equivocation, the unjustified and unprovoked tariffs that President Trump has now announced against our auto sector. These tariffs will damage his workers and his economy, just as they will damage ours. We must retaliate and target goods and services that we don't need, can buy elsewhere, or make ourselves to maximize the impact on the Americans while minimizing the impact on ourselves. But before I go any further about these unjustified tariffs and how we're going to respond to them, let me speak to the workers in the auto sector. You're afraid right now.
Very.
You're anxious. You wonder how you're going to pay your mortgage or put food on the table. You're thinking about the conversations you may need to have with your little children about whether they can register for next year's hockey or this summer's soccer. You don't know if you'll be able to stay in the same city or what's going to happen to your future. Canada will be there for you. We will be there for you. We will ensure that you have income replacement to put food on the table and money in your bank account. We'll make sure that businesses directly affected will have the liquidity they need to get through this dispute. And we will unite as Canadians to protect our affected sectors. But more than that, we need to become strong, self-reliant, sovereign, so that we can stand on our own 2 feet and stand up to the Americans. What is clear is that 10 years of economic weakness have made us more reliant than ever on the Americans. 75% of our exports go to one country. Almost all of our energy, most of our raw materials go south because we can't get them anywhere else.
Don't get it twisted, I really do understand the partnership with Canada. You really have to expand. U.S. goods trade with Canada were estimated to be about $762.1 billion in 2024. U.S. goods export to Canada in 2024 were $349.4 billion, down 1.4% or $5 billion from 2023. U.S. goods import from Canada in 2024 were $412.7 billion, down 1.4% or $5.9 billion from 2023. The U.S. goods trade deficit with Canada was $63.3 billion in 2024, a 1.4% decrease. Pierre was being generous. The number is actually a little bit higher. When we refer to Canada's imports and export partners, Mexico is on the bottom of the list. Per million, they trade about 6,900 million. Japan, they trade just under 14. The United Kingdom, they trade just around 14.5. China, they do 22,000. And that large number that you see at the top of the list, that's the U.S. Canada trades with the U.S. 458,000. Now remember, that's based on millions, so this is really in the billions range. But the number of trade they do with the U.S. individually is about 77%. That means that if the U.S. were to ever just cut them off, they'd be left scrambling. Funny enough, Mark Carney was involved in banking. There's a concept called diversification, or to put it simply, Don't put all your eggs in one basket. These guys put the eggs, the yolk, and everything in one basket and just left a couple of shells in other baskets just in case.
What is clear is that 10 years of economic weakness have made us more reliant than ever on the Americans. 75% of our exports go to one country. Almost all of our energy, most of our raw materials go south because we can't get them anywhere else. We need to take drastic action to build an economic fortress in Canada, able to reach other markets around the world, repealing the anti-pipeline law, rapidly building LNG liquefaction plants, mines, factories, expanding and making our ports functional so that we can move our goods to other places around the world, knocking down the barriers between our provinces so that we can trade with ourselves for a change. Passing a bring it home tax cut on work, investment, home building, and energy to make this the best place in the world to bring back the $500 billion that Liberals pushed out of the country over the last decade. Then and only then will we be able to properly stand up to the Americans and stand up for ourselves. Now is not a time for weakness. Now is not a time to continue on with the failures that got us into this place of dependency.
The same old same.
Now is the time to take back control and relaunch our economy so that we can confront the president's unjustified threats and tariffs in a position of strength. We will do this for our people, for our land, for our home, for Canada first, for a change.
And build your military as well. So we got Elon, Tariffs, Pierre, and then Carney. What are your thoughts? Leave them in the comment section. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like, and I will see you again on the next one. Be easy, y'all.